Our objective is to collect public commentary. That commentary will receive formal responses and be included in the final documentation that goes to the Federal Highway Administration and also the Federal Transit Administration. We're recording your commentary for this purpose, so whether you are here speaking or anyone who participates via the webinar will capture your comments to include as part of this public commentary period. First, we'll be providing some contextual information on both the TIP and transportation conformity. So two presentations that we'll be going through to make sure everyone understands the significance that these play in funding transportation improvements. And then we'll open the floor to comments. For those on the webinar, your line will be muted, and so we ask that if you'd like to provide any comments, please enter those in the webinar chat, in the WebEx chat, and we will both copy them, capture them, and also we'll read them out in the room here so that the people physically here at the meeting can hear and see what you had written. The purpose of the meeting is to collect public comments for our members so that they can review and respond. If it's something very simple, we may actually be able to respond here while we're here. But in any case, both the comments, questions, and also the responses will be recorded, and those formal responses will be included in the documentation. Copies of the agenda and other materials of the presentations, also the comment forms are available on the table right outside. There are also sign-in sheets for anyone who we didn't catch on the way in. Please make sure that you sign in. And again, if you do want to fill out a comment sheet, either today or to bring it and send it back in later, but if you fill it in today, in addition to speaking or instead of speaking, just give it to either me or Ali sitting up front here at the end, so that we're sure we have all those. So any questions before we begin? If not, then we'll turn it over to Craig Leiter from Westchester County for a welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Craig Leiter. I'm a Principal Transportation Planner for the Westchester County Department of Public Works and Transportation. And on behalf of Westchester County Executive George Latimer, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Westchester County Center. And I'd like to thank NYMTC and the Mid-Hudson TCC for their work in putting together this presentation today. Westchester County, as a member of NYMTC, works very closely with all other members of NYMTC on a regular basis for long-range transportation planning purposes, and the work that is done is very critical, and we appreciate all the time and effort that NYMTC staff puts into events like this and all the other long-range planning efforts that everyone comes together to participate in. So I'd just again like to welcome everyone, and I guess I'm passing it on to Ali Moshemi for the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Mohseni from Mid-Hudson South Transportation Coordinating Committee. I would like to welcome you to the public review meeting for TIP 2020-2024. I will be talking about the development of Transportation Improvement Program, TIP for 2020-2024. The NYMTC public participation procedure requires the Transportation Improvement Program and Regional Transportation Plan and related Transportation Conformity Determinations to be publicly reviewed. NYMTC will seek public commentary on the draft Transportation Improvement Program and Conformity Documentation. A 30-day public comment period is being held from June 24th through July 23rd, 2019, in addition to public review meetings in the three Transportation Coordinating Committees. What is NYMTC? NYMTC, or New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, is a metropolitan planning organization for New York City, 5 boroughs, Long Island, and the Lower Hudson Valley. In order to receive federal transportation and planning funds, federal regulations require that each urbanized area with a population of 50,000 or greater must have a planning process. In this region, in New York City, the urbanized area, implementing this transportation planning process is the responsibility of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council. NYMTC is a regional council of governments consisting of 9 voting members and 7 advisory members. NYMTC is an organization required by federal legislation, as I mentioned, which authorizes funding for transportation in this region. NYMTC is an organization that is responsible for the mandated metropolitan transportation planning process and provides its region with a collaborative planning forum in which to address transportation-related issues from a regional perspective and to plan for and make decisions on the use of federal transportation funds. This slide shows the NYMTC planning area consisting of New York City 5 boroughs, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam. The planning area includes 2,440 square miles and a population of 12.72 million based on 2017 data, approximately 65% of New York State's population and 4% of the population of the nation. To respond to local needs, NYMTC is composed of 3 Transportation Coordinating Committees: Mid-Hudson Transportation Coordinating Committee, New York City Transportation Coordinating Committee, which covers the New York City 5 boroughs, and the Nassau-Suffolk Transportation Coordinating Committee that covers the Nassau and Suffolk counties in Long Island. This structure enables each TCC to be more responsive to the local needs of the various sub-regions in the metropolitan area. This slide shows the NYMTC members. NYMTC is comprised of nine voting members and 7 advisory members. The voting members include the Westchester County, Putnam County, Rockland County, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. And the other members, the other voting members are New York City Department of City Planning, New York City Department of Transportation, New York State Department of Transportation, and Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Under the line, below the line are advisory members, which are non-voting members, and they are Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, New Jersey Transit, NJTPA, which is a MPO for Northern New Jersey, and the New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, FTA, FHWA, and US EPA. This slide illustrates the metropolitan transportation planning process. As a requirement for the receipt of federal transportation funding, MPOs in each urbanized area, urbanized region of the country must maintain a continuing cooperative and comprehensive transportation planning process, considering all modes in a coordinated manner through their mandated planning products, which are a regional transportation plan, transportation improvement program, unified planning work program, UPWP, congestion management process, CMP, transportation conformity determination. RTP, or Regional Transportation Plan, is the NYMTC's long-range plan and should cover minimum of 20 years. The current one is for 2018 to 2045. The projects proposed in the 2020-2024 TIP are consistent with the goals and objectives of NYMTC Regional Transportation Plan. UPWP is annual based on the state fiscal year. It is developed through coordination of NYMTC's member agencies and staff. This also seeks to develop the program in compliance with federal regulations while optimizing the use of available planning funds by assuring that these funds are put toward planning projects and studies which address the region's needs, support the regional planning process, and are consistent with the regional transportation plan. TIP is a medium-range transportation improvement program, multimodal program drawn from the Regional Transportation Plan, and is a 5-year program, a minimum 4 years. Congestion management process, or CMP, is another product of the MPO. Since MPO's planning area is designated as Transportation Management Area, TMA, this is one of the mandated planning products. Transportation Conformity Determination containing a regional emission analysis is required since NYMTC's planning area includes all or part of several air quality non-attainment or maintenance area under Clean Air Act Amendment of 1990. The intent of transportation conformity is to fully coordinate transportation and air quality planning to ensure that regional transportation plan and transportation improvement program and transportation projects will not cause or contribute to increase in air pollution, and the set of the investments contained in Regional Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program move the region toward cleaner air. Therefore, NYMTC as an MPO must consider the air quality and congestion impact of its transportation investment. In the next presentation, Jerry Bogas will talk about conformity in detail. What is the role of the TIP in the planning process? The TIP is a multi-year, multimodal program of transportation improvement projects drawn from the Regional Transportation Plan. The TIP is a 5-year program organized by federal fiscal year, which starts on October 1st and ends on September 30th. The TIP includes the transit projects, the roadway and bridge projects, both rehabilitations or construction, bicycle pedestrian projects and safety projects, and system and demand management projects. TIP development cycles. A new TIP is usually developed every 2 to 3 years. Development cycles are coordinated with a stage-wide TIP or STIP development schedule. During each cycle, existing projects are updated and new projects are programmed and new physical years are added. This slide illustrates the current TIP, which is for 2017 to 2021, versus a new proposed TIP, which is for 2020-2024. The 2019 will be carried over and updated. This slide shows the federal funding programs that are administered by FFYs on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, the programs administered by the FTA. Funding assumptions for proposed federal fiscal year 2020-2024. This shows how the planning targets are set by these assumptions. Federal funding authorization via the FAST Act ends on September 30th, 2020, at the conclusion of federal fiscal year 2020. Funding levels for federal fiscal year 2021 to 2024 are assumed at similar levels to the FAST Act authorization. New York State Department of Transportation uses these assumed funding levels to develop planning targets for each of its administrative regions. The FFYs 2020-2024 TIP has been cooperatively built by NYMTC members within the federal funding targets supplied by the New York State DOT based on their sub-allocation within the state funding distributed to states nationally by formula from federal appropriation. This slide illustrates the New York State DOT regions that are related to NYMTC planning area, and they are Region 8, Region 10, and Region 11. Region 8 covers 6 counties in Lower Hudson Valley, and 3 of them are in NYMTC planning area. Region 10 covers 2 counties, both in NYMTC planning areas that are Nassau and Suffolk, and Region 11 covers the New York City 5 boroughs, and all of them are in NYMTC planning area. This slide shows the program funding for FFYs 2020-2024 TIP. The total amount for NYMTC region is $23.3 billion, and it is broken down by each transportation coordinating committee in this chart. This slide shows the program funding for FFYs 2020-2024 TIP and illustrates the amount from state and local versus federal funding, and the percentage share, which is 50.25% for the state and local, and 49.75% for the federal share. Again, this slide shows the program funding for FFY 2020-2024 TIP, and it shows the amount distributed in each year. And the total for the NYMTC region is $23.3 billion. TIP visualization. The visualization is prepared using ArcGIS online to help the user to find projects on their area quickly and to simplify public outreach. Projects that cannot be geospatially located are not shown. I would like to ask David Wicks to do the demo for access to visualization tool. David, please.
Sure.
basically, the way that you can access the visualization, actually I had it already set, but you can access the visualization from NYMTC.org. That's where actually the public would normally access the visualization off the home page, and you can access it by going to the comment period link, click on read more, and then access the visualization by clicking on the view map. So the view map will load, and it will bring you to the NYMTC planning area, which is highlighted in purple. Now, to actually access projects, you can, if you're searching for a project, you can search either by hovering to the location that you're interested in, or you can do a search in the defined box over here. So what I'd like to do is type in Westchester County. Center. That's where we're currently located. And it will actually zoom in on all the projects that are in the Westchester County Center area. Now, the information that is provided in our visualizations includes the municipal and political boundaries, which include the congressional district, Senate, and Assembly district. It includes planning area related information. And the thing about the visualization is that depending upon what extent, which is basically if you're at the 10,000 foot or 20,000 foot level, it will add or subtract information from the viewing area. Now, in this case, I'd like to focus in on the tip. So I'm going to actually go to the area over here and turn off the district information, turn on the tip. And now we should have the information for the tip. So I'm going to actually select a project. In this case, it's going to be a highway project, as identified in the legend. So you have highway, transit, pedestrian, ferry, bus, bike, ITS, and parking. Each of these icons and their corresponding lines are color-coded to follow the format. They identify what type of project you're looking at, and in this case, I've selected the white thumbs tag, which is for highway. It provides the following information in the view. In this case, we have the PIN number, which is the identification number that we use to track projects for programming. We have the plan ID number, which is the control number that we use to track projects as they go through the planning and programming process. We have the type, which is, as I had described, it's a highway type. The MPO name, in this case, it relates to the Mid-Hudson TCC, which is the coordinating committee. We have a small description, the county, the cost of the project, which is the tip cost of the project for the 5 years, a more detailed description of the project, as well as the air quality code. So in this case, this project is exempt of regional emissions analysis. It received an A19 code, and that's because it fulfills one of the either doing a widening or narrowing of pavement or reconstruction type project. Now, for additional information, if you wanted to find out what's actually happening on the project, from a financial perspective, by phase, we have a phase table which will provide you with phase information. So we have the PIN number, the MPO PIN, again, similar to what I described. The estimated obligation date, that's when projects are estimated to be obligated. The year in which it's going to be obligated, the phase type, which is basically provided with the description, is right of way, and additional information. Most of it is provided in the overview button, but it also is more visible when you click on the phase table record to include the fund source, the federal aid, and the non-federal aid portion. So, in a nutshell, this site allows you to find projects that are in your backyard or anywhere that you're interested in our planning area by simply entering an address or entering a place, and it will locate that place and identify projects in that area. So with that said, I'd like to turn this back, turn the presentation back to Ali, and please if I can get this slide deck going. Okay, and click on the.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
This slide shows the draft TIP documentation is also available online, and the link is provided just in case.
Okay. Not all. I'll just.
This slide is about one of the requirements by federal government. NYMTC complies to federal requirements regarding transportation performance management. That the TIP shall include a description of the anticipated effect of the transportation improvement plan toward achieving performance targets. NYMTC has established and is using a performance-based approach to transportation decision-making to support national goals for transportation performance, and also the anticipated effects of the transportation improvement plan toward achieving statewide performance targets are described in the proposed FFYs 2020-2024 TIP. This slide shows the TIP development schedule and steps for adoption. In June 24, 2019, the draft TIP was released for public review. The week of August 19, 2019, the Transportation Coordinating Committee executive meetings are going to be done in White Plains, Hauppauge, and Lower Manhattan to recommend project listings for the TIP. And then August 27, 2019, the Program Finance and Administration Committee meeting to recommend draft TIP for council adoption. And finally, on September 5th, 2019, council meeting to adopt TIP and Transportation Conformity Determination. So next, Jerry Bogus will do the presentation for draft Transportation Conformity Determination. And also, this slide shows the comment submission, the address that people can submit their comments, the fax number, and the email address also. And the comment period ends at 4 p.m. Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019. Thank you. Julie,
Thanks, Ali. I'm going to do a very brief overview of the other important part of this process, which is transportation conformity. Is this working?
One second.
So as Ali mentioned, because of the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990, which set national clean air standards, NYMTC's planning area includes parts or all of several non-attainment areas. And because of that, we need to produce a Transportation Conformity Determination when we produce a new TIP and also when we produce a new plan. So this is an important part of the process, which really brings together air quality planning and transportation planning. The focus here is on mobile source emissions from cars, trucks, motorcycles, and transit. And we'll just take a second here while we get the slideshow going. Okay, just move down to the second slide and put that up on the screen, please. Just move it down. All right, so while you're trying to get that going, what the Transportation Conformity Determination involves is forecasting mobile source emissions for a regional transportation plan, or in this case, a transportation improvement program. And then comparing those mobile source emissions forecasts to emissions budgets set in the state implementation plan for air quality, and establishing that the emissions budgets will not be exceeded by the proposed program or the proposed plan. The state implementation plan for air quality establishes what the measures will be within New York State for non-attainment areas of various pollutants, and addresses all the pollutant sources and types. Of course, the Transportation Conformity Determination is focused mainly or solely on mobile source emissions. And the budgets that are set in the state implementation plan for air quality for mobile source emissions are what apply to NYMTC's plan and NYMTC's TIP when we're produced. Pollutants to be addressed include ground level ozone, carbon monoxide, fine particulate matter. So there are, as Ali pointed out, multiple non-attainment and maintenance areas that NYMTC must address. And ground level ozone is, in fact, made up of two precursors, volatile organic compounds and nitrous oxides. And I think we're getting worse here, so I'm going to keep going. We've blown up the computer. So, results of the emissions analysis, if you can visualize this. First of all the documentation for this highly technical analysis is available on NYMTC's website. What we had was several slides which showed the emissions budgets for various budget tests and where our forecasted emissions come out. In each case, which includes daily nitrogen oxides, includes daily volatile organic compounds, and combined nitrogen oxides on an annual basis, and also combined fine particulate matter on an annual basis. In each of those cases, we've been able to demonstrate or determine that the TIP as proposed will not add to the exceedance of any of the mobile source air quality milestones that are in the state implementation plan for air quality. So I hope I was descriptive enough so you can imagine all that on the screen. But that is included with the TIP, and it will be adopted with the TIP in the timeline on September 5th by the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council. So, having ended that, Ali, are you coming back, or am I doing it? Okay. So, again, the purpose, as Ali stated, of this exercise today is to gather comments. If you're on the webinar and you have any comments, you can type them into the chat pod, and as they come up, we will read them here. In the room, just going to open it up. If there are any, again, we're not necessarily here to answer questions, but we'll try. The key thing is to record commentary that needs to be addressed formally in the documentation that we turn over to Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. So, let me ask, is there any comments in the room? Okay. Is there anything on the chat pod? Yeah. So at this point, we're probably going to wait another 15 minutes or so to see if anyone weighs in on the webinar. But In terms of the folks in the room, if you do have any comments that are down the road that come to you, the comment period is open through 5 p.m. on July 23rd. I'm sorry, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. on July 23rd. There is a form that you can fill out and send in, or there are email addresses and so forth where you can send electronic comments, or you can also fax the forms. So a number of ways to communicate with us. When those comments are received, they will be shared with NYMTC members and resolved either through changes or through explanations of that address the comments. And that, again, will all be documented in the final documentation that's ultimately adopted by the council. And then the federal oversight agencies will need to accept or not the documentation for the new TIP. The next fiscal year starts on October 1st, 2019. That'll be federal fiscal year 2020. So at that point, if this is acceptable to the federal government, the TIP will officially begin on October 1st, 2020, and those projects will be advanced towards implementation. So thank you all for your time today. Again, we'll just wait about 10 or 15 minutes to see if anything else comes in on the webinar, and we'll be back at 6:30 tonight. Oh, wait a minute. There's me. Yes, sorry. No problem. Can you use the microphone so the webinar folks can hear us? Thanks.
Yes. Sorry, in and out. Alex Roythmayer, Chief of Staff for someone named David Buckwell. Thank you for putting this on. Maybe you can answer, maybe you can't. Maybe I'll put my foot in my mouth. We'll see. The NYMTC, $23.3 billion. I see it's split up, and Lower Mid-Hudson Valley gets 2.7 of that.
Right.
Who makes the determination of how that is divvied up?
Okay, so there are two allocations that happen when Congress authorizes and then appropriates funding. The first is from the federal government to the states, and the second is within the states. So New York State sub-allocates funding based on a number of funding formula to its regions. So you have population as part of that, vehicle miles of travel, lane miles, and so forth. And that's how it gets basically sub-allocated within New York State.
And when is the algorithm put together? What part of the process?
That algorithm is provided right up at the beginning of the process when we get our funding target.
And that's done by Congress as well? Or?
No, within New York State, that's done by New York State.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Fortunately, you asked something we could answer.
Yeah.
Anything else on the webinar?
We got enough.
Okay, great. So, again, thank you all for your time today. We will be back at 6:30 tonight. Tomorrow we'll be in Hauppauge on Long Island at 3 and at 6:30, and then on Thursday we'll be in Lower Manhattan at our main office at 25 Beaver Street. And in each level we'll be talking about basically what you heard here, and then highlighting projects within that area for potential comment. But again, if you have anything else later down the road before the end of the comment period, there's a number of ways you can get it to us. So thank you, and have a good afternoon.